let's talk about why online D&D is better than in-person D&D then. Um, what are you shaking your head at me?
Christian. No, in person is so much better. So
Really?
much better.
All right, let's hear it. Let's hear it. What's your I'll steel man the case for online and you go ahead and tell me why I should be playing in person.
Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that we play online right now, but if I had my own personal choice, I would rather play in person. There's just so much more fun interactions that you can do with people in person on a board in the same room where the sweat and BO is at an all-time high. Like,
Okay.
there's nothing that beats it.
See, now that's like already a con for me. It's what you just said. Okay. Because I didn't hear anything out of that conversation or out of your statement that you can already do online. You can get together, you have a board, you can do an online tabletop. Okay. And yeah, you could be together with friends. So you got to elaborate a little more, bud.
I would say you could build relationships, but you're going to argue that we could build relationships online like we're doing right now. I
I
get that.
am. I am. All right. So dig
But
deeper. What do you got?
so big point here. Online, a lot of platforms that we have to communicate, such as Discord and other ones, when you speak, a lot of times it's hard to hear others if they're trying to talk at the same time.
Mm,
Usually only one person can have a conversation at the same time. In D&D, that doesn't always happen. A lot of times multiple people need to talk and are talking to each other. They're interacting, and with six people in the same room, you could have three or four different conversations at once and not interrupt anyone.
that is true.
Online, you can't do that. You can't do that.
That is true. You can have like these little sub conversations going on and like sub role play in and out. I have experienced that in person. Now, however, I am going to argue that because someone is in the spotlight at all times, I think it drives engagement for people. I think that people are more ready to pay attention because there's only one person who could be doing something at one time. And so everyone's kind of engaged in whatever's going on at that exact time. That's, I mean, that's more of a trade off to me, I think. I'm not going to say that that is better because I think that it is beneficial to have that side role play. Like it keeps people immersed. But it is nice to not have people off in their own world while you've got the main thing going on and then have to like update them on that, if that makes sense too. So,
Agreed, but at the same time, I feel like the need or the want to be doing something else just on the side, like watching my phone or whatnot, is a lot easier to do while I'm online. While I'm in person, we're so interactive, and that there ends up not being a need for that because there is none of that space. You're always engaged, whether it's with the DM or another player, because of that non-singular component. It allows spontaneous for spontaneous engagement whenever they have that wonderful thought pop into their head and they don't have to wait for the DM to shut up, because I don't stop talking. And so then it doesn't feel like they're interrupting
true.
because everyone can hear it all at once.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is true. Let's see. What else do we
What about
have?
body
What else
language?
can I
You can't read my body language because you can only see me from here up.
I
You can't
mean,
tell
you're
how
at
if
a
I'm
table
slouching or
already, so you're not really doing that much body language. I don't see anybody else dancing around. I think between any of us, I think you are only ever standing up as a DM when you're nervous, and I
oh, very nice.
am always like up to like touch people. I like to like well, that sounded bad,
Interact.
but like shake people or like come up behind people and like kind of like hug them like a character would, things like that. So I don't know. I mean, if you're already sitting at a table, um,
It makes
I feel like in person because of like usually there's a plethora of snacks. I feel like people are getting up and moving around a lot more than online where I don't know. I feel like you kind of just like have your whole setup in front of you and you're good to go. But I could
right.
be, I
You're
don't
making
know.
my case. You're making my case
I'm
that
making your
the
case.
food, you're having dinner as a friend group, as a family,
Okay.
you're interacting together. Now, you can also have ambient music. You can change it up when something begins to happen online. You can, but you got to be better with your technology. Also, speaking of technology,
See, I was going to say
what
that's a technical
happens
issue because I used to play music all the time in
what
Roll20
happens
when
though
they
if
had
your
the SoundCloud integration. It was
internet goes
great.
down? What happens if internet goes down?
If internet
The whole
goes down,
D&D night's over.
you're screwed. But
It's
how
it's
often
gone.
does your internet go down, Riley?
A lot more than I want it to.
Yeah, you, that's a personal. That's another issue for you, if anything. I would argue that it's easier to get together because I've had sessions where I've had to drive, let's say, like an hour to get to, and so by the time we play all day, and then I've got to, it's 2 a.m. and I've got to drive home, and I'm not home till 3. Like I'm already tired. Like been a barrier for me to have to drive out there and say, hey, like do I really want to drive out and go play D&D tonight? Do I just want to like chill, And having to have everybody have physical like in-person time to show up and be together, I feel like is more of a uh, an obstacle than it is for online. I feel like it's easier for people to get together
I
in
will
that
agree with that.
aspect.
That is true because it does, whether or not the weather's bad or the distance is long, you can always play. I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
It is easier to schedule, and for most people that have played D&D, they know how hard it can be, and that's usually the biggest obstacle is the scheduling, getting everyone there,
Yeah.
not having cancellations, and that is a little bit better. Okay, I'll give you that one. But you got
Aligning it.
you got one. You got one to
I
like
got
my
one.
6
Okay,
or
here's
7.
another one. Here's another one. It's easier. It's easier to break out and have private conversations with people if you're playing in Discord, right? You can have a separate channel for like a private context with the DM. So if you want only one player to know something, or if only one player speaks a language that nobody else does, then you can pull them out real quick into that deal, tell them everything you need to do, and then pop back in, right? Really easy, kind of like breakout rooms, okay? Yeah. Okay, you know how long it takes to text people during session? Way too long, bro. Way too long. And you can't convey, like you said, body language, so you can't convey that, right?
No, you're right.
So
You're right.
I think that's a win over text, at least by by far. Um, man,
That
what
is true.
else? What else do we got? Uh,
I will say as well with DM, and this is gonna go for you over me, because at least when we were in person, I just had my laptop. I had a single pane, and so I had to work more with paper, which I'm all for. I'd rather use paper than online. But with online, I can have 3, 4 monitors up and have tons of pages open with the map and Discord, and I feel a lot more organized.
mm,
And I didn't feel like if I forgot something at home,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's just I just go look for it in my files.
Are you helping
Oh,
me right now? You're helping my
I am,
case?
I am. But it could also go that, if you have it on your computer, a lot of people are digital and they run it digitally.
True.
But I feel like you need a win here. I think you need some help,
You think I
getting
okay,
getting up in
okay.
the competition here,
Well,
because
I had
in
something in
person's just
mind, and now I can't think of it because I just got distracted by you helping me. I was
helping
feeling
you out.
I was so confused for a minute. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. Pre-prep. You can pre-prep really well online because you can go in and you can set up, especially if like your tabletop has, a DM layer or things like that. You can go into each scene that you're gonna bring your players into, set up all the monsters, set up all the HP, everything you need, and hide them. And then when you bring the players in, because that takes a lot of prep. Okay, roll initiative, and now, I'm searching through my thing of minis. I'm pulling everybody out. I've got everybody positioned on the table, and everything like that. Whereas I can already have that prepped beforehand, before the session even begins, and boom, like we can just jump right into it, and boop, all of a sudden 6 monsters appear. You know, roll
That's
initiative,
true.
yada yada yada. So you gotta have like some pre-prep. You can do some asynchronous work, right, where you don't have to rely on the players necessarily. In that case, it also is nice. I mean, I guess you could do this in both cases technically, but players are able to move their own tokens around and manage their own HP and different things like that.
I
So
will
that
agree with that.
works.
I've used that to great effect, at least recently with our campaigns. I've been learning a little bit more about Schmeppy, the one that I use, on how to just be able to have that stuff pre-prepped and how I could just drop it in rather than having to create it on the spot. So I will give you that. There is some pre-prep that you can do. But my one issue with that, unless you're using something like Tailspire, which costs money and is a super in-depth 3D platform, you don't have height. It's a 2D platform
That's true.
and you only have the X and Y axis. And I personally, I thrive on using the whole environment, not just the stuff on the ground. It's really hard to distinguish between a flying character and how high up they are versus who's on the ground. And to
That's
me,
true.
that's hard. I
Yeah, that
like being
is
able to show the difference.
yeah, that is a difficult piece of really any sort of virtual tabletop because it seems like as you add that extra dimension, you add a whole extra level of prep to get into that.
Oh
But
yeah.
um but yeah, I could see that. Totally agree with that. Okay, here's another one. You ready? You ready for this one? Space. Like, what if you don't have enough space to have everybody over as a DM, right? Like, you can just everything's virtual, so I don't have to, have a bunch of 3D printed terrain so that I can show height, or a bunch of HeroScape puzzle pieces, hexes to throw together and whatnot. Like I can just hunch over on my little laptop and I'm good to go. I'm ready to go. That's all the space I need because everything else fits in this virtual world.
But hold on, you're missing out on hours and hours and hours of painting and immersion that goes with making those
Whoa, 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 whoa,
minis.
whoa!
Christian,
This is
come on
not
now.
Warhammer, okay? You can go somewhere else if you want intricate minis, okay?
No,
You're
that
getting gray primed minis from me.
that does make sense. You can fit, you know, 8 to 10 people, whatever, because they're all in their own respective space
Yeah,
versus on a table. But you can be creative with the areas that you work on. I mean, I didn't
yeah,
have a table back when we did it in person, so guess what we used? We used the table tennis table,
yeah. We did. We
which
used
is
ping pong
almost
table.
too big.
It was so big.
It was
It was
almost
so
too
big.
big.
You had to
But
stand
hey,
up and like lean way over just to get to the minis in the
correct.
middle of the
But we
table.
had enough
Remember
room
that?
for all of our dice, our papers, our laptops, the board.
That's true.
Heck, I could even fit the TV at the end that was like my map screen.
That's true. Yeah, that is valid. That's valid. You do.
So
If you
you
got
could
the
be creative
space, you
with
can
it,
go hard.
but
Yep.
you are right. It sometimes does get cluttered. But I would argue that that's what makes it great. Being elbow to elbow with someone throwing dice. That's another thing as well, I guess, that I miss is
Mm,
the rolling dice aspect.
yeah, you
The
got me there.
virtual,
I can't
it
argue on
sometimes
that
gets
one.
me. It sometimes
Can't
gets me
argue on
that
that one. Especially as
in
a
my eyes,
programmer. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're good. I get that it's math and it's probably the most accurate randomization than just rolling a dice, but sometimes I feel like it's just out to get me.
Oh, 100% it
Whereas,
is. Oh
granted,
yeah.
I guess my
You
dice
can
could
never
be
trust
too, but
computers. I was gonna say, as a programmer, like you can't trust computers. No, you can't trust them. And unless, and who knows? I don't know how they're doing their random generator. Hopefully they're doing it properly. But if they're just using some, you know,
basic
bogus
math.
way of doing it, then no, those are not true random numbers. And you get into the debate of can you really get true random numbers on a computer? I'm not gonna get into that, but you got me there. It is cool to be able to get
Pick up
your
that
very
handful of
cool looking
dice.
dice, and I mean, nothing felt better than running boss battles with you guys with my big dice and having
Yeah,
those mega rolls that just sound beefy and
that
mean like
hit the
that.
table hard.
Because everyone was like, "Oh man, that sounds so brutal," kind of a thing. And so, yeah,
What am I
yeah,
supposed to do with all of
I
this?
know. What are you what
What am
what are
I
you
supposed
talking
to
about?
know? It's blurring out.
Yeah, you can't see any of that.
I don't get to roll them anymore because it's
Yeah,
also an
it's all
issue
down in
of
the game log. Now
you got to make sure that you
that is kind
trust
of nice.
the people you're with.
You can log everything,
That is true.
so you know what you rolled. So if you end a session on a on a huge cliffhanger nat 20, then you can relive that moment when you open back up on the game log. Write it down. I mean, no. Here's my theory too, though. It's also a bad thing because as a DM, you may want to fudge that roll the next time if your players have forgotten. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
you guys remember I
double-edged
crit the
sword. Yeah,
paladin.
do you guys remember I freaking crit the paladin? He went down.
Wait, I don't remember that.
I don't remember that. Well, check the logs, bro. I wrote it
Did
down.
did you write it down? No.
Yeah, yeah. You can't trust them to write it down.
Can't trust the
Um,
DMs either.
yeah, you can't trust anyone. Never trust anyone. Yep. I don't know. Is that it? Is that all you got?
I don't
I
know.
think that
I
might be
think
all I got.
I think we're at a stalemate here. I think we've
Yeah.
come up with the good points. I'm curious to see what anyone else has to think about on this. I mean,
Yeah, give us your list.
life changes, and a lot of time. I mean, we've been playing D&D. We started in person, but ultimately have had to go online
Yeah.
due to the fact that I mean, you live in Texas, I live in Wisconsin, and Cameron lives in Utah
Yeah,
and
Utah.
Wisconsin. We're all over the U.S.
And we got Wyatt all the way over in Washington. So,
So it is convenient for the fact that we get to still stay connected in that aspect. But I will say, if we had the opportunity, I would love to just be in person. There's just something about it. Something about it.
it is fun. It is fun. Either way, I think you're still playing D&D and you can still have a lot of
That's
fun
true.
with it.